Hi, Professor Gordon. My name is Megan Kiesler, and this is my video presentation, the first one. I know there's two. This one is regarding the case about dumping, and there was two questions we were supposed to answer, which I will do as well. I'm a senior with Tarleton, and my degree is accounting, so I'll be graduating this May, hopefully. So we're going to talk about what dumping is just in general, give you a couple examples of it, and then I will move on to answering the questions. And so for starters, what is dumping? Dumping is when a country's businesses lower the sales price of its exports to gain unfair market share in the exported country. These countries usually drop their prices lower than what they would sell the goods for in their home country. And in some cases, they even push the cost below the cost of production. So when a product is being produced, there's several, if not many, costs that go into it. So the cost of production includes administrative cost, obviously production cost, as well as labor cost and things of that nature. So basically what they're saying is that if a product sells for, or the cost of making the product is, say, $100, and when they export it, they're selling it for $75. So basically, they're taking a loss on the product, so that way they can hopefully and eventually be the market leader within that market. Most of the time, what they're trying to do when they're dumping is create jobs for their residents in their country, and when they do that, however, it's an attack on the country that they're dumping on, because it's taking away, money that their residents are spending instead of spending it in their home country. An example of this, there was a case, I think it was April 2017, where the United States threatened to put a tariff on Canada. I think it was a 20% tariff on their lumber, because they were selling it or cutting it down for cheaper than what they would sell in Canada. Let me see. Sorry, I have notes over here too. So on April 24th, 2017, the Trump administration warned Canada it would impose a 20% tariff on its $10 billion of lumber exports. And it says some provinces allow loggers to cut down trees on government-owned land at a reduced cost. So basically, they threatened them just because they were, selling it at a cheaper cost. Some tactics that you can use against dumping is also, obviously, the tariffs that countries impose. The World Trade Organization actually allows dumping. The legal definitions are more precise, but broadly speaking, the World Trade Agreement allows governments to act against dumping where there is a genuine injury to the competing domestic industry. So as far as the questions go, the first one was regarding people would rather buy cheaper and globally than more expensive and locally. Realistically, I do agree with that 100% actually. For me, let me use me as a prime example. I am a obviously college student, and I had recently a roommate move out, so I have no couch, at least in this room. So when I was looking for couches, I started looking, places around here. There's a few furniture places where I live, and the prices were just kind of outrageous, something that I could never, or I probably could afford. But honestly, this is a spare room. I don't need anything special. So then I started looking at, online stuff. I ended up going with a company that is based out of California, but their manufacturer is actually in other countries, including China. I think there's one in South Korea. realistically, like I said, I can't, as a consumer, know exactly where everything is produced within that company. I could buy locally, or locally as in like my own country, and in my mind, that is a good thing because I'm like keeping the money within our local community. But as far as them outsourcing their products to get cheaper rates, you can't really blame them for doing that. Everybody's looking to make a profit, especially with these big box, industries. But I do think that, buying local has become more of a trend lately, or more in consumers' like forefront. I think that, purchasing as far as local, like farmers markets, or, there's boutiques around, there's boutiques everywhere. All of that, like, I think that is becoming more and more popular and kind of in demand. And I think it's great. I think it's producing jobs here. I mean, that's facts. It is producing jobs here. It's, helping build, the community around us in our country. And it's giving us more opportunity to make money, giving us more opportunity to, kind of see what our region can do, like within the world. But I think realistically too, that there's some things that we just can't produce, at least not to like great quality, like limes in Mexico or bananas. That's exporting. And it's just something that's going to have to happen regardless. There's no realistic way for one country to create all and to purchase all within its own country. So yes, I do agree with that statement. I do think that I'm guilty of doing it. And I do think that there's kind of two different kinds of Americans. I kind of joke about this frequently, actually. There's, Go America, those people. And then there's, people like me who are just like, hey, I'm just trying to get the best bang for my buck. And I think that's what that question was regarding to. Like my mother, she really and truly only buys, American sourced products. She's always kind of been that way. Her parents are like that as well. I'm just a struggling college student just trying to make it by and furnish my house. So I personally would rather just kind of get the best bang for my dollar if I'm going to be spending it. And if the quality is the same, then I don't think that there's really a big problem with that. I do think that the option should be there. Like always, the option should be there for us to choose, whether we want a more expensive product and it's made here, it's made down the street or whatever, or if we want to outsource it and purchase it, through an import. So I think that option should always be there. The second question had to do with, do I think other countries or people in other countries would agree? And I think it kind of goes down that same line. Yes, I think there is people within other countries that would probably agree, saying that if I want something that is just not in my country, or that is harder to find in my country, I think the option should, or I think they would say like the option should be there for me to purchase outside the country. I think there's probably certain countries, probably China, for example, that would, since they mass produce everything, and everything comes from China, there's probably not a whole lot of need for them to outsource and buy from other countries. China produces, everything. They have vending machines on like the sidewalk. So, I do think they would agree. I think that, the option should always be there. Maybe that's just my kind of American mindset, but kind of to close on it, I guess, there is some, advantages to buying local. There was a study done. Let me go back over here. Let me see. Based out of London, I believe. The New Economics Foundation, an independent economic think tank based in London, compared what happens when people buy produce at a supermarket versus a local farmer's market or community-supported agriculture program, and found that twice of the money stayed in the community when folks bought locally. They argued that buying local is good for the economy is questioned by many economic theorists. They argue that transportation costs actually account for a fraction of overall production prices, and that choosing lies efficient local products over more efficient non-local products is an economic deadweight loss. This is quoted. Moreover, the community as a whole does not actually save money because consumers have to spend so much more on the more expensive local product. Karen Seelig argues that the buying local trend is just a watered down version of protectionism, and it would not benefit communities as proponents invasive. Yeah, so like basically when I was building up my PowerPoint, and I was kind of like thinking about the questions as I was doing my research about dumping. I think it's just another example of competitive pricing, and I think it's always going to exist. It's a hard thing to control. You can put tariffs on products, most definitely, but I mean, even the World Trade Organization can't really do a whole lot. They can't punish the country. They can't because it was the doings of one company. So it's hard to control. It's hard to maintain. And I think competitive pricing is something, like I said, the option that everybody should have if they want to take the loss and on their product and keep going at that rate. If they want to take a $30 loss because they're trying to sell it at something at a cost lower than what they produce it for, then that's a choice that they can make, and that's a choice that, and as consumers, we can decide to buy whether or not, if we want it that way or if we support that just in general. But yeah, that's my presentation. Once again, my name is Megan Kiesler, and thank you for watching.